and we're going in deep, nearly 14 feet underground, with this guy right here. His name is Hatiras.
What
I
up?
met George way back, high school, and it's been incredible to watch the meteoric style rise of Hatiras here in Canada and around the world. Uh, the whole world definitely heard Hatiras at the moment that he released a incredible single called Space Invaders. It was scooped up by a label in Chicago called IHR, and then relicensed again to Defected, based out of the UK, where it became just an absolute global sensation, and then was re-released again with a vocal on top of it from Slaughter John, who had done some work previously from Basement Jacks. I could probably go on and on. This is just the intro, just the tip with Hatiras in Utility Room. What's up, man?
I'm great. That was a great intro, but your shoulders are looking huge, man. I'm like not hearing anything. I'm seeing is like, holy shit, he's like massive, eh?
so I I I've been working out for a real long time, and I'll say that it took me nearly like almost 4.5 years before I was actually at a place where I was like, okay, I put in this work, and probably a lot like anything else, right? That you could say,
10,000 hours, I guess,
right?
or whatever,
The
right?
time that you put in,
Yeah,
and then what you're going to get out of it,
yeah.
and everything came to a screeching halt. I had a routine. I had this really insane, and it didn't matter what was going on. I stuck with it. So I was up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and by 5:20 or something like that, I was at Good Life at the gym, and then I'd be training until close to, I don't know, 7:30, 7:45, home by 8, able to get breakfast with everyone in the family, get everyone's day started, and then bang into work, and it stayed like this. The pandemic hit, and it that stopped. It stopped because all the gyms were closed. There was nowhere to go. Nothing. Where was I going to go train? And if I had a great deal of paranoia at the start of this thing, it was like super concerned. I think I even had like the safety goggles that I would go out with.
Oh,
With
you
the
mean
full hat.
paranoid about getting ill or something?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when this stuff first dropped last March, it definitely felt like Ragnarok was upon us. I I was scared, and I rather leave the house looking like the apocalypse is here,
It's
and be
just
okay, maybe, instead of the alternative. And it felt like, like two things happened with the pandemic. One, like Bitcoin went through the roof, and
mhm,
then the other thing that happened is that dumbbells became the new gold,
mhm,
averaging at about $3, $4 per pound, to
mhm.
buy a dumbbell. So if you want to get a pair of like 50 pounders, for example, it's like, woo, all of a sudden it was a massive sticker shock. And I wasn't alone. The whole world was
Mhm.
immediately like, what can I buy? What can I get that's for gym gear? So
Yeah, yeah, I really hated that my gym closed. That was like the day it opened again when I was the first guy in line. I was like, to me, working at home, never really leaving other than if it's like a tour or a party or whatever. It was like my daily ritual to just get out and go to my gym 5 minutes away. I didn't really stay long or go early, but I did the lazy man's workout, but I would like rather do it than not do it, you know? But it was like a way to get out of the house and like so like yeah, that really like hurt not having that and but I admire the fact that you've continued at home really hardcore, like staying on it. And do you wake up early every day still, or
yeah, man.
you do?
Yeah,
But what time do
yeah.
you go to bed though, out of curiosity?
So it really depends. Like when I've got utility room happening, I could be up a bit later depending on how the episodes go. Sometimes the episodes are really efficient, and
Hmm.
we're done in 40 minutes,
Hmm.
you know.
I
And
think
there's
what
other times
ours is the kind that could go on for
it's
just many
there's
like
potential for us to see 11 p.m.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, because
Like I know that sounds a little
get
strange
rocking
in
chairs
terms
with
of
those
podcast.
old guys
Yeah,
and
2 hours. We may see 2 hours. Um, so 5:30 in the morning. I'm still up. It's still a thing. Also, as a total aside, I mean, you can definitely see it on me on some episodes. Not tonight. Today's been a good day for me so
So
far.
you don't
And
sleep
even
that much, eh?
I've been fucking battling crazy insomnia throughout this whole thing. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Interesting.
3 4 hours of sleep a night, which is
Really?
really, yeah, and it's knocked me around a little bit,
Hmm.
which is crazy. I'm trying to stay obviously positive, and
Hmm.
I'm remaining optimistic that I'll get this beat, and it's a fixable problem. I'm
Hmm.
unfortunately that I've got a fixable problem. I know that
Hmm. Hmm.
it's not an immediate answer, especially, which is super frustrating when we live in a life where we swipe and get answers right away. There's not a swipe to
Hmm.
this, you know. So, but like
Well,
this,
that's one of the things with life right now that a lot of people are having a hard time understanding is that life isn't this swipe and I'm just all of a sudden a successful musician or a successful artist or this or that. It's like
or the
retrained
pandemic is going
everyone's
to go
brains.
away. This is
Yeah.
that to me is
Well,
the best for it. We
illness will
weren't
always be
ready,
with
right? So,
humanity. Illness will always be with us, always. So, and mental illness as well. And, the bigger pandemic than the actual pandemic in my mind is the mental anguish a lot of people are going through and the questions that are coming up with just everyone's even role in life and all these incoming problems like artificial intelligence replacing jobs and, it could go deep, like extreme citizen monitoring. There's a lot of things that are at stake here, beyond just the, oh, hey, we're avoiding an airborne illness. This is quite a lot going on, so.
when you've got these thoughts that are orbiting around you, and and you're there, I mean, living it,
Hmm.
what is this doing for you when you're sitting down and you're making music?
Interestingly enough, the more I dig into, I'm a guy who, when I go shopping for a piece of equipment or a new camera lens or a keyboard, like I research the hell out of it. You know what I mean? Like I like every piece of equipment I have in my studio, and I have got quite a few little trinkets and machines and analog keyboards. I've read the manual before I even got the equipment, and I've read it like twice. So I research the hell out of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I buy a piece of equipment, I'm reading that manual, I want to know what it does, what its limitations are, and then by the time I even arrives, I'm like already an expert generally, But similarly with a lot of the stuff that's been happening, like in every way, even politically, socially, pandemically, whatever, in the last like while, like it tends to really actually get me like quite like depressed and upset and it sometimes feeling like kind of helpless or trapped or whatever. There's been a lot of changes for guys like us who were used to traveling the world, but I'll tell you, like, what I've done is I've soon as I feel like crappy like that, my salvation and my solution is making music and forgetting everything. So it's almost like a therapy for me making music, and I've been envisioning uplifting not only myself but everyone else who listens to my music by like, okay, my job in life now during this crappy time, no matter how you view anything, it's a crappy time, is to let me try and elevate myself and everyone around me through these frequencies that I'm crafting that are kind of cool and fun, and keep it upbeat, so that's how it's affected me really.
the
So.
the style that I would promote Hatiras with, I would say disco house, filtered disco house, disco loop, disco house, disco.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
lately, though, it seems like on one particular website, I'll call it out, TrackSource, you're getting placed into something called Jackin, Jackin House.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm hearing what you're saying, and you use the word uplifting. Do you think that that's what this music is, and that's what's been happening with you and Space Disco Records, is that you're releasing uplifting vibes?
In general, yes, it tends to have a slightly happier sound. However, when I mean uplifting too, I should expand it to mean have you transported, and through emotional, voyages in your brain while listening to these frequencies. So some of the stuff, I mean, my new one coming out is kind of a slightly depressing, but it's cool. It's like I'd call it almost like emo flavored disco house in a weird way. So, and then I got another one coming out that's a little bit more kind of just straight banging techno, my own version of techno, and then I was probably not be that banging compared to, but still like tougher. So it's like not just about uplifting; it's about like channeling really cool tracks that are palatable for the dance floor and for at home, and that transport you somewhere, whether it makes you feel like thoughtful or a little bit sad or like really upbeat or really energized, like just stuff that strikes you is more than anything, so it doesn't need to be one specific like always happy, although like the flavor of the label is a little bit happy-ish. But if you even listen to like the first release I made, it was called Golden Eyes, and it's more like I would describe it as like dreamy, transporting kind of filtered disco. It's not like a banger. It's more like a floater, if anything, a groover, but like in a trippy way, So, but my point is, it's like I like all the emotions of music. So
Do
yeah.
you think that it's a greater challenge being a producer who's not relying on a vocal to accompany the instrumental, the arrangement that you're doing to get the emotion and the ideas across to the listener?
When I started, I never had any consideration for vocals. I was always just looking for the like energy and the frequencies because, I spent so many of my weekends at raves from like the beginning to end, right? Like I was at every rave in Toronto from like the beginning to end because I was like selling drinks or being a promoter. So I was like there like 9 p.m. till 9 a.m. And a lot of the music would represent me was just the banging kick drum and the energy and the hi-hats, and the vocal was always a very secondary kind of thing. But it wasn't until like years later of producing that I started to really more kind of acknowledge that side of musicality as well. And first few kind of vocally tracks I tried to make, I feel like were kind of more of a failure than the more raw, just like instrumental things, because it was still like my brain was still in the dance floor, in that warehouse, in that rave. But now I tackle them both, and I think that they're both related but different art forms too. Making a song without a vocal can be like really a hard thing to do for some people because you're like relying on all the like textures of every drum and all the frequencies, and it's not that easy to like hook people with like just you got to make some cool sounds there, a lot of synthesis or whatever, right? But you know, I, my new ones tend to have like some sort of a vocal hook in them somewhere, but it's not usually too much of a vocal. It's just a little bit. So
Let's walk back together and get us to York Mills High School.
yeah.
What's happening? How do you come across house music?
Oh, well, I mean, it goes much further back than that. I tend to remember whenever people are, and I'll make it quick, but I remember being like 10 and living in South Africa with my parents and being in the middle of nowhere in some kind of middle of nowhere place. And I had a Walkman and I had like Michael Jackson's Thriller album and like that was it. So, and then I heard like, Careless Whispers by, George Michael, Wham, and a couple of these like kind of synthy kind of, you know. And so that sparked my brain to like freaking out over and loving music. And then when we moved back to Toronto, I was 12 and my sister got me a cassette tape that the cool kids on the skateboards mixed up for her. It was full of like freestyle and like early kind of electronic or even like, New Order or Geno Beats or early house or. And so at that point when I was 12 and I got that tape, I got a double tape deck. Like that was my toy. That was my thing. It was my double cassette tape deck. And I had these couple of radio shows like Dave's Dance Music and Peter and Tyrone had a radio show, even eventually Chris Shepherd. And I would like record that show and then like try to make a mix the next record like a few weeks of it. And then they'd play the same song, but there'd be a radio ID like in the middle of the one week, and at the other week you'd have the rest of the song. So I tried to like record the mix onto another tape and eliminate all of the radio IDs and ads. So I would just cut to that same song they played the next week, and you know what I mean? Pause and cut, and I thought it was pretty cool trying to like sell those or give them to buddies, and that was like, I guess my early teens, and I discovered these like high school type dances my sister took me to where there was a DJ, and then comes high school where I've been to a couple of these like I don't know, I wouldn't call them like community hall kind of dances. Even some of them were like Greek or ethnic or whatever, right? But the music was house music. It was like amazing. Or freestyle. Or, when it got into like Euro, I like despised that music. And that's when I was in high school and I was like found this rave store in Toronto called Ecstatic, right, at Queen and John,
You didn't like
right?
Euro.
Hate,
What
hated.
about Black
I was like,
Box?
that was the beginning. That was like the
Or is that
first. I
or
liked
is that a
that.
Tallow House?
Well, that's like that was before Call Me Mr. Vane and all like you know what I mean? Euro tracks, right? Like Black Box
Okay,
was at the beginning, so I like that. But at the same time,
Technotronic was Technotronic Euro.
yeah, Pump Up the Jam. No, no, it
Okay,
wasn't. I'd say Pump Up that was like techno because it was like there was a vocally deep, garagey, kind of soulful house, and then you had this split off into the more kind of, oh, these sounds are more electronic, so I guess
okay.
that's like techno. And you had these songs like Magic Feet, where it was just a kick drum and a bass sound, right? The whole way
CNC
through.
Music Factory gonna make you sweat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Even Two Unlimited was like kind of groundbreaking at that time, remember?
So this is
Yeah.
I for me Euro, the kick drum sounded like a tennis ball being bounced on a court. That's what I remember from Euro, is that tennis ball kick
Oh yeah,
drum.
yeah, very sharp kick and then always that synth melodies and the like vocal, the really cheesy commercial vocal breakdown. It was all on the like, you know, like Call Me Mr. Vane or all the stuff and
Yeah. Tonight is the night.
yeah, exactly. I hated that stuff. I was the
Well,
kid who
I
was like,
love that song. Go on, how do you
no,
not like it? It's great.
you know why? Because it was in 90 two, I discovered Factory Tuesdays on 19 Mercer Street, and the DJ I believe was Mark Oliver and Jungle PhD. And I was like a little kid, and I was like went into this like space, and people had fat shoelaces and like a glow stick like rammed into their like shoelaces, and I'm like, what the hell? A glow stick, and they had like these sock hats with like the like rings and like baggy pants, and I'm like, oh my God! And there's like rave Tuesdays, and I'm like, wow, rave. Wow. It blew my mind, the subculture. And the music was like called hardcore and it was like sped up like early jungle techno, early pre-happy hardcore kind of sounds. You know what I mean? Like Medicine Muffin was one of the DJs, these guys, and it was like that's my stuff. And I found this store Ecstatic and I bought like some tapes and I would record it on these late night shows. And I was the kid who like that back then it was a big deal that your friend had a car when you were in high school and that you could get in the car and hang out in the car and like all hotbox it or whatever, hang out and like someone was gonna be the DJ and play the music, and I was the guy I was like, no, no, hell no, turn that Euro off, put on this tape. And it'd be like early techno, early like UK garage or you know, just the early rave or even, ASIN or happy hardcore or jungle or drum and bass, or all these early forms. And I was like, that was like tape culture exploded then in Toronto too with the raves. You'd like, because you couldn't find people don't realize that are in their 20s or younger. They're like, it was a different world. Things were mysterious. You had to like hunt down, like, you wanted music. You didn't find music on some magic box that called it up for you. You had to
You
like
know,
go somewhere and.
yeah.
So anyway, that was my high school era. I was the kid who like was that purist, like, no, listen to this music. And I had this like BMW logo t-shirt that instead of BMW was like XTC. I didn't even know what that was. I just thought it was this cool rave logo shirt. And I met some other kids who had these rave shirts in my high school and we kind of bonded. And it was like there was like six of us in the whole school or whatever, a dozen eventually, and everyone else was like the normal music kids, and we were like the weirdos who were like liked rave music, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
I've brought that up a few times, that the big thing about identity, youth culture, trying to find yourself, trying to find your place where you fit. Obviously,
Mm,
you wish to be among people that have similar interests, likes as you. This is no different today. Um,
mhm.
I think the big thing then, though, is that if you wore a Run DMC T-shirt, you meant it.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. And you were
and
like
I
at the
don't know
beginning.
if see
Yeah.
today. I feel like it's ironic.
It is ironic, and it's a different time. Then you were like, I remember you'd be called a beater because you were like, into hip hop, and it was cool. And you had the like Adidas with that was that thing. There was a few kids that had that style, and then there was the few like ravers, and then there was like kind of like the hippie-ish, ripped jeans, tight jeans, hacky sack. There was like such style was such a thing. I remember like I was in grade 8 and learning about like acid house. Like I didn't even know what it was, and a friend of mine, she's a famous gambler now. Her name is Evelyn Ing, actually. She's a famous casino gambler. She's in video games. She was like
Cool.
showed up with like a polka dot like button up with like baggy flared out like silky black pants and was like, yeah, this is like the acid house kind of look and la la. And oh, so hip. It was so hip. It was like this mysterious, what's acid house and what's techno, Like you had to like figure it out and like hunt it. I don't know. A lot of things were like this mysterious dream where you didn't have access to so much. Like where you go to the library and like what get like there weren't books on this stuff. You just had to like I don't know. You filled in the gaps too. You romanticized things, right? So yeah.
That was fantastic. What what happened though? So you're there, you're taking it all in. The culture is you're a sponge with it. You mentioned how you're very much into discovering everything you could mechanically and engineering about a piece of gear that you'd be interested in.
Mhm.
Is that new? Is that something that you did back then? What was the first piece of gear you got? Why didn't you go the route of grabbing turntables and wanting to be the DJ? Because clearly you were very interested in music, and
Mhm.
just in my brain, this is probably very different right now, but
Mhm.
then 1995,
Mhm.
1994, you know, it was I'm going out, I'm grabbing Tech 12s, I'm getting some wax, I'm putting together my mixtape, and I'm gonna see you soon on the dance floor, and so that's not what you did.
I was always like slightly reluctant to ever be any kind of a stage person. I was always a little bit more shy. It's funny in grade 6, I don't even know how I got roped into being in the like school play. It was The Sound of Music. It was all a blur, and I think I just when I had to sing, I mumbled. I was like kind of
Who
shy, and I
who
didn't
who
really.
were you in the
I
Sound of
was the
Music?
captain and the captain, whatever. He's the dad or something. Isn't he the dad or something in the thing, right? I don't even
Excellent.
know. I honestly never even watched the movie, but like, so I'm in this like high school play.
What?
It's like, no, I haven't. I should, but I was thrown.
Yeah.
I just I will actually. You know what? Because it's a part of my history of like, and I remember like actually after I did the play, like we would practice every night, and then we did the main showing where the parents came in the one night, and then like I swear I must have flopped because like people sang along and I just kind of mumbled. But there was some dude came up to myself and my mom then and he was like, "Oh, hey, I'm from this TV show like Degrassi Junior High, and we think you were fantastic on the thing. If you want to like have like a meeting with us or something and la la la, I don't know, an audition or whatever." And I was like, oh, cool, cool. Yeah, no, whatever, cool. And I didn't give two rats ass. I did not care. I did not. I was horrified by the idea, and I never did anything about it. But it kind of shows that maybe I had some natural inclination for something like that, which I was denying. And like when I started in the the scene, I was never intending to be a guy on the stage or be like actually the guy like DJing, playing the music to everyone that way. I was more like comfortable being the behind the scenes guy who was giving everyone the culture. And so I started in the raves as like a vendor selling drinks. They were like healthy smoothies and got to know everyone in the scene. And then it was my idea to like throw parties. So I was throwing raves for a solid
Hold on for a
5
second.
years,
How what drinks are you making? And how how did you end up a bartender at a rave?
So I discovered on my quest to get to know the scene this weekly Friday night party called Destiny Fridays, which Ryan Kruger was throwing at a little like might have been some sort of Latvian hall or something at Church and Shooter Street, downtown Toronto. And we were going in the first night on this quest to because it was a quest. That was like a video game, finding a rave or where this music was or these parties. You had to like find a hotline somewhere and get
Adventure.
the guy with the map, and like, so we found this party and Ryan, we met the promoter, and he was like, we started chatting with him, myself and my two buddies. He was like, if you want to help me hand out these flyers at your school, take a stack. So I did, so I got to credit Ryan for giving you that first stack of flyers to like spread the word. And I did, but I didn't really enjoy that too much. And it so happens that right around then there was a rave inside the CN Tower. Like on the top, it was Don Burns,
Yeah,
Vertigo,
DJ Ian and Claudio. Yeah,
and Dog
I
Whistle was DJing.
right.
And so I went to this rave with my buddy, and we had the
James
best
as
time
well from the New
ever.
York
And
people.
there was a guy selling blended drinks with like a black light and a cool little like setup, and he was wearing a lab coat, and it was like, what the hell is this guy doing? That's cool. He had a blender, and we purchased a drink from him for like $5, and it was supposed to like energize you because it was full of vitamins. And again, Starbucks and Jamba Juice did not exist. Health food stores did not exist at this time. There was no walk in the mall health food protein shake store. Protein shakes didn't exist. They were like a really odd, like new thing in California. So we bought this drink from this guy and got his info.
Hold on. Did I
And
did I miss this? Where did you learn about ingredients? Like how did like what?
okay, so at the time also I was studying biology and stuff. That was my route. I was going, and nutrition and things was what I was trying to get into. Um, and so this dude, like, we started talking to him. He was from Detroit, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys can do a smart bar if you want to buy these products from me. I'll ship them to you. And the only thing I say is you can't like set up a bar at any nitrous events, any Atlantis events, because that's the one party I drive up to in Toronto to do. And I do my bar in Detroit and around the States and la la la. So like he sold us we would buy these like it was like a sealed professional vitamin mix from California that he had access to that had like ginseng and vitamin C and spirulina and all the like healthy crazy stuff. And we ordered the first batch of tubs of this like health concoction from him, and we asked Ryan, the weekly Friday night promoter, if we could set up a bar there because we saw the guy do it at the CN Tower. And he's like, yeah, do it, but do it for real. Like, don't do a crap. Like, do it proper. So, like, myself and my two buddies, we were like 17. We were like, all right, let's do this. So we like made a logo. We brought like a blender, and we bought like some ice, and we like brought like some Kool-Aid fruit, and we mixed the Kool-Aid powder with the stuff from this, protein shake stuff. And we like had this bar on the go, and it was pretty humble. And but it also though now was an excuse because I was kind of young, and I was like, I remember coming home from that CN Tower rave at like, I don't know, 8 in the morning. And I I remember I was wearing the baggiest like raver pants with like the size of a garbage bag on my legs. And like walking, they would crinkle really loud. And so I remember like coming home like at 8 in the morning, and it was the first time being a rave so late, and I was gonna get in trouble. I was worried what my parents would say. So like I like took my pants off before I came in the house, thinking like it wouldn't wake them up, the crinkling of the pants. I was young. So yeah, I opened the door with my pants in my hand, my boxers, and my parents were like, where the fuck were you? This is like 9 a.m. You thought we're still what the and I'm like, no, it's cool, it's cool, I'm going to sleep, it's cool. And they never really bothered me, but I felt like, okay, if I'm gonna be out all night and at these parties that I really want to be at, I need to find any reason I can to be at these damn parties. And having a booth there is like the perfect excuse to like, hey yo, like I'm going to work, mom and dad, like and everyone around, I'm going to work. Granted, work is a party, but it gave me that like freedom to now be like at raves like all night every weekend, Friday, like 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., Saturday, 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. And I like, it was originally just an excuse to get to the parties, to get in free as well, to be involved in the scene. When you're young, you're just trying to get in the party vibe. You want to do what you need if someone gives you an opportunity to be like, hey, you could sell t-shirts at these parties and I'm going to pay you like, whatever per hour. So it was all about like getting involved in any way I could fast forwarding a few weeks after we started the Smart Bar, there was 3 partners. We did our first big rave. It was Destiny 3, Ryan Kruger's party at the Big Bop, and he probably had like 1,500 people there. It was a massive party. It was rammed. The roof was sweating, and like the bar made decent money. It made a few $100 or whatever. And the third partner got weird on us that night. He wanted to be the big boss man and like, okay, well now you guys are my employees and I'm gonna because I'm the older one and I negotiated this and like pulled an asshole move. So what happened was we decided, myself and my buddy Craig, who you know, Craig Scanlon, he was my partner throwing raves later. We decided to do our own booth. So I remember being in high school class and coming up with a logo, Liquid Adrenaline. It's going to be that energy bar. And then we came to Ryan the next week and we're like, we had a war with our partner, so you got to pick us or him. And he was like, you each get a week on, a week off. How about we do that? You know? He was diplomatic because there was now a Smart Bar war in Toronto, you know? So as a result of this Smart Bar war, we embellished our booth like a lot more than you normally would. Like we brought like a cop siren light and like rope lights and like a big banner, and we just wanted to be louder and better than him because you know. And he eventually, like after like a few weeks, he quit. He realized he made a mistake. He couldn't handle it alone. You need a team, you know. So luckily, I continued doing the Smart Bar with my buddy Craig, and it became a staple at every single rave from like '93 to, well, for years, but like we now were at every rave, and promoters would come to the bar and leave their flyers on the bar top, and we'd be like, well, if you want to leave your flyer here, like cool, we'll promote too, like leave it here, but like, do you need a bar at your party? Do you want us to bring this next week? We'll bring people, we'll bring the party, we'll bring the bar. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So we were at every party now. We became a fixture. So you couldn't go to a party without seeing this massive sign that said Liquid Adrenaline with lights all on it.
Hot name. I mean, when
Yeah.
you're thinking about how is it that you guys haven't been hit up by somebody somewhere that want to pre-package their own drink and be like, I'm just gonna buy this name from you because this name is
We
white
have.
hot. If
We
you want to
have.
open up a can of something and
We have.
get the idea of marketed, promoted, stay awake, go juice, what is better than liquid adrenaline? I mean, like, holy shit,
Well, we have. And
amazing.
ironically, there was this guy who attended our parties who, when we stopped pushing that brand around 2001, after 6 years of doing it, a former raver attendee hit us up and was like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm starting this like nutrition line using that name, and I hope you're not pissed off about it or whatever." And we were at that point like in an odd situation because it's almost like, but we didn't really like pursue anything or like, but the dude did make it. I don't even want to promote the guy because it's a little bit odd, isn't it? But anyway, some dude did do that. I don't know if he's still in business or if it went bankrupt or what happened, but like some dude did that. He literally was like, "Oh, I'm going to sell my own
Of
nutritional
course,
stuff."
it's a hot name. I mean, there's no way you can't look at that name and not think that it's absolutely, super fuego,
I
right?
mean, yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
if that kind of thing happened today, we live in a different time where also legal protection is a lot easier to obtain. If someone does something to you, you can out them online immediately. You can be like, "Hey, yo, no, I already have." This happened to me with my Madhouse Promotions company in Portland. Someone tried to take that name too. But now you can call someone out and be like, "That's my brand. It's on Instagram. It's been on Instagram and Facebook and website for like 8 years. Please stay away from it." In fact, someone even tried to do that with Space Disco, and I was like, "No, I'm not going to let this
It's
mistake happen
weird
again."
that
You know?
you're saying this right now. I am in a similar situation where someone has outright called themselves Jello, and I'm like, I just think to myself, it doesn't matter what the name is, really. If you're going to use an alias, if you've got an idea, a PKA, a pseudonym,
Mhm.
Google. Like, hey, just for a sec, just to see, because, and I'll tell you what, and the reason why is you got to take your own advice. I didn't do that with Utility Room. There is a Utility Room podcast, and it's a comedian, and she's in her basement, I believe.
Mhm.
I haven't checked out the episode. I've looked at the image online. I said to myself, man, like, had I known.
We live in a time now though where I guess like, you know, everyone has access to these social media sites and everyone's now a brand in themselves, and I'm sure a lot of names are really highly sought after, certain word combinations, and I've had to like play with that a bit lately with certain like other projects I've developed where it's like the first thing you do now is like check Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and YouTube or whatever. Is it available? Oh, it is. Oh, it's taken.
Yeah,
Can we spell
better
it
not do
differently?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, let me flip the letter upside down, and now we're good to go.
I mean, I'm not a fan
No,
of
I
that,
know
but
it's
yes, but at least or spell something with put a zero instead of an O, or
no.
but it's all about that now, right?
A
Isn't it?
1 zillion trillion words, possible number combinations, but it has to be that, and it exists. But be like, it has to be that. I have to go there. No, you don't. If anything, that just goes to show that about as much creativity as a piece of dirt.
Well,
It's a
honestly, if
hot
someone
take,
were
I
to
get it,
take
but
my name and try to put out a record with it, which actually has happened as well, there's a few songs out there with my name in the song, and like there was one in particular. It was so bad and embarrassing. I literally asked the retailers, I'm like, look, man, I'm a good customer here. I give you a lot of music on my label. Like, can you just please remove that one nightmare of a song? The other ones that have my name in it, or there's some that have my like my name being yelled in it. There's some tech there's some techno songs where it's like Hatiras, and it's like, do you even know that that's the name of a dude who made the song, and that's the vocalist Slarda John saying that, and you like put it? What do you think? It's just a word, like. But I
right.
actually allowed it to like. There's a few of those that like I've allowed because like I guess it's like they're kind of marketing me in a cool way. But one of them I had to like get rid of. It
But
was
what
it
if it's
was like
like a
this.
fan or something? What if someone's doing it and they're like, I have all your tracks. I love it. What would you
A
do? Like,
fan did do that,
okay,
and he titled the song. I think it's called "I Gave Hatiras Acid." I think. Don't ask more
true
than that.
stories or
You can look it up. Yeah, apparently. Watch. If
right,
that blows up, you'll be royalties, bro. But like apparently, like, yeah, it's and I remember meeting the kid. He gave me a demo,
right.
and it was like, yeah, that's cool. You know what? He's nice. He's talented. I hope he does well. And I wish him it's not done in an asshole way. It was like he's being fun and it's cool. But like there's a lot of them, but one of them I only one did I tell them the stores to please take that down. That's embarrassing. It was like clown sirens over like a distorted kick drum with like I don't know car engine synths, and it was just the
So
worst
you're
thing
saying
ever.
that I would have loved it, is what you're telling me.
Yes, I am exactly. Yeah, you're like, wait, that sounds great.
I'm like, yeah,
Like,
right now, I'm like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
firstly, I got to tell you, you're telling me this whole story, and while you're saying it to me, like back then, I didn't even second guess it. You know, I I walked up to the booth. We don't know each other. Took my
Hmm.
money. I took your drink. I drank it. And then I raved.
Hmm.
What?
And you know what? I'm sure that. Sorry, go on, go on.
No, no, no. What are you gonna say? I'm not gonna forget my thought.
I'm going to interject with saying I'm
Yeah.
sure it did you a great service because I was very proud of the fact that we were caring for people there. We had like banana with potassium and like little pineapple chunks with like, real, vitamin C and ginseng and like this stuff that like is like a body natural power drug to keep you up. And at those parties didn't have booze, most of them at the time. They were liquor free,
That's
right?
right.
So we were like happily keeping people
That
going.
that
And
vibe wasn't welcomed
yeah, the
then.
booze vibe. Yeah, and it wasn't
To
even
be show up
what
at
it was.
a party and be super drunk, that vibe wasn't
No, no one
that,
even
that yeah,
cared
that vibe
about
wasn't
booze.
welcome.
Funny enough, right? No one cared about booze, like really at all. It was just like everyone was buying their water bottles, their smart drinks,
Yeah,
you
right.
know.
Yeah,
So
it just wasn't that type of party. Um,
no,
Trust. Massive trust that you as operators, you and Craig, you guys are purchasing ingredients and they are what they are. What was the government check on all this stuff? I mean, and
that's
it was coming from the states. The FDA is
so I
a
do
little
remember that.
different than GovCan.
Well, when we started it originally, um, we just kind of just did it. And
Right.
then I remember being at one of these parties where sometimes we'd get kind of placed beside the coat check. And I remember like we were, there was this booth and then the coat check closet right there. And I had my squad with me. This bar became like the party hangout spot. Like our friends would come, leave their jackets under the
It
table, and
was a
hang
hundred
out. It was like,
percent.
yeah, it was like a place to
Or
go
a
and you hang,
meeting spot if you lost
or a meeting
somebody.
spot.
I'll see you at
Exactly,
Liquid Adrenaline.
because you didn't have a cell phone. So I remember being in the coat check room, and I was like, just in a funny mood, and I just saw this like fluffy, pink, like massive pink raver coat. It was the funniest coat ever. And I was like, I gotta put that on just for fun. Like, so I put it on and I'm like, look in the mirror and the door bangs. And then it's like some sort of official, right? And I'm like, some adult. I was like, whatever, 18 or whatever. And they're like, excuse me, is this your bar here? And I'm like, uh, who are you? And they're like, flip down a badge at me. They flipped me a badge, eh? And I was like, yeah, and they're like, do you have your vendor's permit here? And I'm like, oh, if you don't mind, could you explain uh, about that? And just the less words, the better. And they're like, yeah, you need a vendor's permit to be doing this, and we're gonna let you go this time. But if next time you don't have one, it's not gonna happen. We'll shut you down. And then I went to the city hall at like in North York and got a vendor's permit, and then it was fine. It was like you just basically have to. It's like being a hot dog stand. You
I
just pay for this
there
vendor's permit.
there's a trust that exists there
Well,
as well.
now that we're like how we are, where people don't want to breathe fresh
No,
air for
I mean even
but like then, like yeah,
even pre
there
pandemic.
is a trust. Absolutely, there is. And people were like, "Give me your strongest drink," and I like, you'd be like, "You sure about that?" And so like this drink was probably a little stronger than necessary with like an extra bonus 2 caffeine pills or whatever. And like 30 minutes after they ordered that drink, we'd always watch them rushing so hard, dancing so hard that it was like 7 a.m. They'd be like, "Yeah."
I'm bringing up the trust from you guys as purchasing that you guys are purchasing what you think you're purchasing and you're getting what you think that is you're getting so that when you go and you put it together and assemble it and you guys had a board that you guys had that would tell what the drinks were and the key ingredients that were in the drinks so that people would be able to look when they'd walk up, like in line 5 people deep, be like, what am I having? What am I having? And they get there and be like, I'll go with this.
Yeah, and that's making up the names was one of the funnest things too. So the cheapest drink was called the Smart Start, and it was like this like an orange smoothie with some vitamin C, and then there was the Blue Job, which was like refreshing. Yeah, the Blue Job, refreshing blue lemonade with a spooge of whipped cream. It literally said that, and the rule was like you made this like yeah, you put the lemonade powder,
Should have
the
had a
like
tagline that everybody swallows it.
well, I had a little drawing of a squiggly guy that was like lying on top of. But anyway, like yeah. So we like whenever we served the whipped cream, it had to be in a slightly crude way. But people loved that. And then we had like the psychic nectar was another drink where you bought that drink and you get to put your hand in this little goldfish bowl and pick out a fortune and read it. And like at that time, we wrote these fortunes. So we wrote like 50 wacky fortunes and folded them. So you weren't allowed to keep that because like I'm not about to print. No, you put it back in the bowl. But like read the funniest things. Like we'd pull it out and we'd be like, "Oh, you're very attracted to the gentleman behind the bar or whatever."
I,
Like just
I was gonna say
wacky.
that people trusted you guys. Like you're in line, like people are lining up for the stuff and they're grabbing the drinks. Like there's a whole lot of this trust exchange that's going on, and it's wild to think about that right now. Which it seems like I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it seems like that would be a strange, a foreign idea today.
You know what though? I don't think so necessarily. Let's say you go to a party, right? And it's like everything's organized and the lineup and the security guards and the sound is epic and the artists and the flyer. And you go like see like a vendor selling, right? Like a food truck like selling you Korean tacos or like jerk chicken fries or whatever. Right? It's the same kind of thing, right? There was like I had a like it was just food vending, right? So it's the same thing, really. It's just at the time, maybe we didn't have a full kitchen or a food truck, but we had like this little smoothie bar, and it was like we took it seriously, did it legit, and like we're really happy about like we were happy to do it. It was like we were so embedded in the scene, and like we got to be at every party, and I could take a break and go dance in the jungle room for a bit. We would always choose the jungle room. Actually, I was more of a junglist than actually, But it was like not that different than vending now. But I mean, I get what you're saying, but like, it's also not that different from a hot dog stand. And if it's in a party, you're trusting that it's in there for a reason, right?
One of my
So
favorite road stories with you, because we've done a bit of traveling together. Sometimes we would just end up at the same show, but we've also done some stuff where we were getting on airplanes together.
are you gonna bring
Um,
up Victoria? Go on. No, go on.
what happened in Victoria? You don't mean that university party that we did, the prom that we did? We did
Maybe
we
I don't know.
did
I remember
we
what
did the University of Victoria's like prom or something, like the
was it.
graduating party or whatever.
Didn't I get like so ridiculously drunk? Probably had 4 drinks because I'm a lightweight. That I just remember like it's like noon and the hotel doors banging. They're trying to get me out of the hotel. You're in the room like next door. And then I was like so wasted. I like yelled at them. I was like, "Get the hell out of here!" or whatever.
Yeah,
And
I
then you
don't
like heard me
remember
like,
that.
yeah.
I don't.
I remember
Yeah,
you being like, "Bro, you yelled so loud, like you like, yeah, you were
I
so
was,
hungover, man.
I was,
Being
I was,
hungover, eh?"
I was, I was, I was. So, no, the story I was gonna tell is we were driving from Nevada to Oregon after Burning Man. And I don't know how deep we were into the drive, but it wasn't crazy deep. Maybe halfway, and one of the, I don't know, first food stands that we legitimately saw, and we pulled over, and it was like chicken breast, but it looked like it had been cooked like the day before, and then maybe just lightly reheated, and it was super super dry. And then there was also these hot dogs that just looked, like when something gets really cooked, it has like a lot of wrinkles, like an elderly, super
Yeah,
elderly
yeah, like
person
pruned up, like
wrinkles.
sitting in the
But
bathtub.
these wrinkles just look dehydrated. They didn't actually look like a cooked wrinkle on a hot dog
So
skin.
it's been soaking up the sun out there on
I
its
don't know what it
clothes.
was soaking up,
Yeah.
but I was so hungry that it could have had, and it probably did, a variety of other things in there, and it would have stopped me from eating it.
I mean, I
And
remember first coming from Burning Man, anything like
that's
edible,
what we
like
were. We were coming from Burning Man.
yeah,
We
I
were
remember
in
you
we were in a
sleeping in.
van.
You were in a hammock for like a week one of the years. Like I remember you being Survivor Man, where you like basically had like a one-man hammock thing you slept in at one of the Burning Mans that we went to. I was like, oh wow, you're hardcore. You had like some sort of hammock or some sort of like I don't know how you did it. Like it was like maybe the second
Then that
time.
that was the night. That was the night before this drive we're
Yeah,
talking about, and that
exactly.
was no, that was just the last night. That's because whoever, I was always really fortunate in every Burning Man I've been to. Um, Root Society, Jeffer and Skywalker, Ryan, have really taken care of me. And then when I went to Osiris as well, Travis T, Spencer really took care of me. And then Wide Ocean, Travis took care of me. I'm saying that because I don't. If he wasn't there, I don't think that camp might have run proper. I've been really fortunate. That one night though, because the accommodations were taken early by whoever was being gracious enough who was hosting me, I had to sleep in somebody's hammock underneath a like some type of net covering.
Yeah,
Or
that's
it
remember
was
that.
yeah,
I'm like, wow.
it was open. Yeah, listen, man, I the very first few burns that I went to, if there was a whiteout while everyone else was hiding. I, and you know this because we did this. In
We
fact, I did.
suffered.
I grabbed you. I
Yeah.
went, "Let's go fucking play." And you were like, "What are you talking about?" And it's like, it's you can't you hold your hand out. Barely can see your
I will
hand in
never
front of you.
forget that. And then one of the guys in the camp, it was literally because we, I don't know how other people camp, but we had this like teepee that you were might as well have been sleeping in the sand because it was so
This is
when the
2008.
yeah,
This
exactly.
is
There's so
2008.
much dust. You're like you can't even breathe in a teepee because it was so dusty.
That's
You have
right.
no reprieve, and we like
I slept
survived.
in the first three burns. I slept in a teepee.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. Yeah, we and
Right.
then upgraded to like a minivan and then different Always though an element of Survivor, man. Never been so super easy. I mean, last year was.
I had it pretty easy.
Yeah, yeah, last year was easy
My
'cause
my
we're
last bunch of
veterans.
burns.
That was like what our eighth time or whatever the hell. You know, we're like we're gonna do this
I
in luxury this time.
My last burn was my ninth burn.
Was it? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. But yeah, I remember that there was the craziest dust storm ever. You couldn't see anything, and you're like, yeah, let's go DJ in the dome. This is
That's
like
right.
probably like 5 p.m. or maybe 3 p.m. or during the day.
It was in the afternoon.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we go in. I will never forget that set in my life. It was a highlight gig. There was like four, five people in the dome dancing,
One of which is
and
Joachim Garode.
yeah, and me and you, and these people were. It was so ridiculously magical and epic, and the music was just pounding, and the stormy sand ever, and they were jumping on the speaker. And then I remember one of our campmates showed up with like a air hose pump thingamajiggy. Remember that? And he gets he comes up to and he uses it to blow us off and blow off the decks, you know. And then he's like, "Free blowjobs everywhere, free blow." That was like the joke, you know, free blowjobs. He was, you know, blowing people off with this thing, and we were like, just had the best time playing to those five people and them losing it. We were like leaping. It was like like we were just it was so powerful. Just the energy of the storm and the dust and the it didn't matter there weren't 10,000 people. There was the five plus us, but it was like I'll never forget that gig, you know. So
It was serious. Yeah,
yeah,
I remember it. I remember that we made everybody in our camp really happy that we were doing it, and of course a bunch of strangers who were either walking by or stopped in just because it was at that point that it felt like the whole burn was at a standstill.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, everyone was hiding out. There was no, and it was then that I like embraced the power of the dust that way. And it was after I said, I remember it was a storm, a dust storm, and I remember climbing on.
a particularly crazy one, though. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, a
there's some
crazy one.
dust storms that you don't mind,
Oh, this
but
is like a wash over the whole place, like, you know. Yeah, some movie with a rock and the ancient Egyptians and pyramids and a dust storm kind of a type of thing. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I remember climbing up something, like I found something and climbed it, and just like opening my arms and my face, I let it all just hit me. I was like baptized by the dust. You know, it was like the craziest, and I was like, I'm one with this, and I don't know, it was just like I'll never forget that. You know, just the power of like just open arms in a dust storm on a tall structure, probably going to get blown over, and but it was like, yeah, it was just awesome memory. You know, yeah. Yeah, good memories.
right.
You introduced me to Burning Man, eh?
Yeah, yeah, I got you in. Well, because after it was Jefford that called me up and convinced me to go. I didn't want to go.
I
I
didn't
had
either. I was
I
like, you
Yeah,
described.
I had to convince you. I had friends that were like they came back after they went and they looked at me and they went, "You've got to go. We know people. We can help you play some shows that are there. You've got to go." And they start talking to me, and within 5 minutes of the conversation, I was like, "No, this does not sound like a good time to me, like at all." And they were like, "Oh," and they went back again, and I didn't go with them again. But when they came back, I can't remember. A couple months later, Jeffrey called me up. Well, first he emailed me. I said no to him on the email, and then he like 2 weeks, a month later, something he mails me again. I say no to me, and he's like, let me just to talk to you. And I was like, oh my god. I'm like, yeah, all right, call me up so I can hear what you've got to say. I'm not I'm not going to be an asshole. Let me hear what you got to say. And firstly, I mean, if you talk to Jeff, I mean, Jeff can. I'm confident he could, he could
Convince
probably
any, yeah,
sell
exactly,
ice
yeah,
to an abominable
yeah,
snowman,
exactly.
and so yeah, he did sell me on it, but the way he sold me on it wasn't. He was very honest, and pretty much everything that he said after, upon like reflecting on it now, was right. It was right on it.
I think I
But
recall you coming back from it, and luckily you and I were neighbors for a period of time. It was
that's right,
like
sort
a
of. Yeah,
kilometer away, basically, you know.
barely.
And we go for a little walk there, and you were telling me about this thing and how like this guy Jeffer, and you're like, no, this dude like he invented Monster.com. This guy's a serious guy, you know? Like
Well,
this
yeah, he
guy's
was. He's one of the main dudes. He's one of the main dudes behind it.
yeah, exactly. And you're like, he's got this party on the go and this Burning Man thing and a stage, and you need to come and like la la la. Here's a video, and it was like at that time the video quality, the like a phone on your video was like new still, and it was this grainy video where I could you hear the distorted kick drum, and it
Terrible
shows
saturated
terrible,
speaker.
and I see this dark shadow, which is your hair there with like 1,000 heads bopping in a sea of dark. What is this? And I'm like, you're like, dude. I'm like, yeah, I
Are we
guess.
still talking about Burning Man or?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then my girlfriend at the time was like, when I told her, she's like, "Oh no, it's been a life dream of mine. We're good. We're gonna go." And I was like, "Okay." And I remember we went that summer, and it was my first one. And I remember if that was that must have been the Dust Storm one, right? That must have been the one, or maybe it was the second one. Or it's a blur now, you know. But yeah,
It's
I didn't know much about it. I just thought, oh, cool, weird party. I mean, I'm already a raver for years, a promoter. You know, I just like, wait, you don't get paid? Like, what? It's our job. We get paid. Like, that's how it works. We go like tour and get paid. What do you mean? We're like divas here. We get flown around in hotels and we make money touring the world. Wait, this is a party where you go and like, oh, you don't know? You contribute. You go be part of this camp and have this Survivor Man camping thing where you all got to like build the stuff and
yeah. If
this
you camp at
communal
Root
thing.
Society, you're working. At
Oh
least
yeah,
for one of
yeah.
the days that you're staying on camp. At
Oh,
least for sure.
absolutely. No matter who you are.
That's right.
And
No
that's
matter
what
who
I
you are.
loved about it because that place was where all manner of artist and human would come together to contribute to a communal style way of what life would be like had we not if there's no money or expectation for an exchange, it's community, you know.
I felt that that changed exactly what you're saying. I feel like that was how it definitely there was a lot of that. I felt like the last few burns that I've been, I guess I'm starting to sound a bit like a jaded burner. I haven't given up on it, and I won't say never. You know, if Jeffer gets the band back together again, or if Travis called me up and he was telling me that he was going, I'd want to go because I think maybe it might be more about being with them at Burning Man rather than just being at Burning Man.
Totally, totally. And I did notice like some little changes, but
Did
they're
you?
yeah, yeah, like last year
They're
when
not
you
little. Let's come on. Let's be honest with each other.
well last year more people are like excited to like take photos of it all. We live in a time now where like everyone wants to document everything and be all, you know, take their photos. And there was more like it was interesting because like there's more like supermodel type looking girl influencer girls with like these really nice outfits that were like all about like getting their posed photo in front of like this thing, this art piece that was like a really high end photo. You know what I mean? And so like there's that whole aspect, which I'm not hating on that though, because everyone wants to remember their like trip there and you know, but like definitely that didn't happen before. Like it wasn't people weren't running around trying to like document things. They were just enjoying the moment. And I remember like enjoying it so much that you would see weird stuff happening like in the corners of the tents or under the stages, like people getting down, doing whatever. And it was just normal. You didn't like really think about it. But now it's like
Very sanitized. It is.
you're being sarcastic,
No,
right?
I'm not. I'm actually. I mean, why? Because it's so. You're literally partying in dirt. Yeah. No. It's. There was a. I mean.
Oh, you mean it's become sanitized?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were referring to sanitary. No, no, yeah, there was
No. No. No.
unsanitary
Yeah.
like
Apologies. I wasn't
debauchery
clear about
happening
that.
then, and then now it's definitely like
There's so many. I'm not quite sure. I feel like maybe that's its own episode. I just. I don't know. I don't
you know
know.
what though?
There was just so many. Cat and I saw a party going on, and we walked towards it, and I guess there was like a concierge person or something, and like a bunch of people looked and you can tell she was walking first, and looked and were like, "You guys are not welcome here. This is private." And
Yeah,
like
that never happened before.
we
Although that did happen to me a few years into my first burn, and I like was upset because I was with like a troop of like dudes, like maybe like five of us. It might have been DJ Dan and you know some of the buddies just kind of walking around, and we saw like an art car busting, and we like
Right.
waved it down with our little glow sticks and everything, and it came to us, and dude opens the door and he's like, "Oh, it's all dudes, man. No, sorry, man." He slams the door and drives out. I'm like, what the hell is this sexual
You know what,
discrimination, man? Get out.
that was an art car thing that was going on back from my first burn. I remember listening to Burning Man radio on the way into the burn, and that was a discussion that supposedly the marshals at the burn were going to be walking around to make sure that there was a form of equality, diversity upon the major art cars that were doing parties, and it wasn't just a driver with a bunch of scantily clad, beautiful people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
no, this instance I'm talking about, like we could visually see a great, I don't know how many people, a number of people. This was not, if it was private, I could understand perhaps that people were having a personal moment. 12 people sitting around a campfire listening to some music, and they're getting into something, and we're not exactly welcome because they want to have, and I'd be respectful. I'd see it. And how, why am I walking over to 12 unless I've got something that and in which case I want to join you, I want to be part of it, but that wasn't it. We're looking up and being like, let's party, and be like, this is private, y'all aren't welcome in this
You know
area.
what though?
You guys have got to go. And we were like, if there's a party happening at Burning Man, it's open to everybody. Like
In theory, it should be, but
that's actually part of the principles of it. Like that's what you're supposed, if you should be welcoming us into the party, asking us our names, can you help fill our cup, what, one of these ideas, like, tell us your story, we want to know your story. Why is this party happening here? Who are you, where are you from, let's talk. And there was none of that. It was, y'all aren't welcome here. That's that. No,
that there is more of an aspect of that,
I
but that
just
may
never
be
had
due
that
to
before.
the.
Just told, it froze us. We were just looking really, what? Like,
Yeah, totally.
I didn't even want to be like, why? I was just like, fuck this. And we left. On the flip side, I'll say this so that it doesn't sound like, ugh, that's just a super downer. We had a really magical adventure because we got lost in somewhere near the back end. Like, if there's a back end, which back end? A back end of the party. I don't remember the street number, address, any of the title, none of it. But we came across an observatory. Someone built an observatory with a telescope, and it was focused in, I believe, on Mars. And then there was a smaller one that I believe was focused in on Jupiter. And we were able to get involved and like scoop in and look. And there was like a small lineup for it. It was a dome. It had like ambient music playing around it. It was super wild. In the middle of the night, not a lot of light pollution near the back end of the burn. Amazing view of these planets. Like, you're just like, I'm like, where am I right now? This is really cool.
Hmm.
It's not over. I just feel like there's obviously a great deal of influence that's happening right now, which I think gives two shits about the principles and what's supposed to be going on and how it could be, you know. Yeah,
Inclusive and
that's just, yeah. It's
it's
just my,
but you know what though,
opinion,
like
and I'd love to be proven wrong.
there may, as it's gotten bigger, there's like it represents more of society. You'll
Yeah,
have
well,
more of
when we first
everything. You know
went,
what
there
I
was
mean? So if
barely
it's
30,000 people.
there's even gonna be more douchiness now, so whatever. But at the same
Sure,
time, like you make out of it what you decide to, and
100%.
when scenarios like that come up, it's the odds are is that you're gonna walk another like 100 feet and come up with a completely other awesome group or experience. And so, maybe you just weren't meant to be. I don't. Who knows, right? I don't know. Whatever. Maybe
Indeed.
they're troublemakers or so. I don't know. Who knows?
Listen,
Whatever.
I feel like I've scratched some with you now. I don't want to get I don't want to get away from it. What happened after Liquid Adrenaline? You said you ran it for 6 years and then you guys stopped. What went on?
The parties got big. The first one was 600, then 1,200, then 1,800, then 3,000,
Which
then
parties?
the liquid adrenaline parties.
So
But
hold on,
all
I'm
the
saying the Liquid Adrenaline bar that
okay,
stopped.
okay. So I did the bar. I was at every party, and then because I was at every party from beginning to end, right? I saw how it worked. I was just luckily, oh, so there's a security team. That's the guy. He comes in, he seems to scope out. Oh, they put barricades. Oh, there's the venue owner. Oh, there's the, flyer guys and the flyering, and here's the door people, and so I saw from the behind the scenes how it all worked. And I would get home with these flyers. They were very collectible. I'd bring the flyers home, And my dad was in the printing business at that time, and he always would like be critical of the flyers. He'd look at them and kind of be like, you know what I mean? Like he never like thought they were awesome. And because he was in that business, he's looking at card stock and quality of printing and resolution and all this stuff. And then I remember a buddy was like, Mopai, my buddy, was like, "Hey, we found this church that Dundas and Bathurst. If you want to throw a party there, we're gonna start doing like a weekly there. But if you want to do a one-off, we can connect you with the like main priest or owner of the church or whatever." So we had a meeting. I just went, and
There's
he's
a
like,
there was a priest that was get cool with raves.
"Yeah." So he was this a Ukrainian church at Dundas and Bathurst, and it was like,
Sick.
"Yeah, no, all night dance party, all night dance party. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you what's yeah, no, Sunday, May 21st, 1995. Yeah, no, we're gonna bring like 300 people. Okay, okay, yeah." And like we paid them the rent, and they wanted the business, which actually, watch, it's gonna happen again now. That a lot of these like venues are gonna be empty and hurting, and the new underground is gonna start penetrating these halls and churches and
We
community
talked
centers.
about this briefly, you and I, leading up to this episode, to get our chakras aligned. But
Mhm.
this was also something that was touched upon by Ryan on Utility Room a couple months ago. But keep going. Let's not hijack the idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, come
exactly.
at me.
So anyway, so I rented the venue, and like, you know, now it's time to make a flyer. And I had some feedback from my dad, who was like the brain master of like, these flyers are crap. They're all flimsy. Dude, break the rules. Make it hard paper. Laminate that. And it was like we'd look at I'd always have a VIP laminate pass because I was a staff. And like, why don't we like break the rules, and instead of doing the same fold out thin paper, let's do like a laminate type flyer that's like small with all the information on it, and let's like put a string on it and hole punch it. And when everyone gets in the rave, we're gonna like lay them Hawaiian style with this like flyer, and they won't even realize that they're like it's a party, you know? So like it took off. People like knew the Liquid Adrenaline brand. They knew who we were. We were at every party, and our flyers were now. We were proud to spend the most money on the flyers. Like we just blew all our money on the flyer. Like we wanted it to be like hard paper, good quality, you know, collectible. We started getting into like die cutting the flyer, which means we'd cut a shape. So we had like a spray can shape, and then like a Pink Panther shape, and we even had one that was like glow in the dark with ink and that glowed. And so like because we were so passionate about it and doing these like, you know, after that first party, it opened the can of worms, and then I was now doing a party every like quarter basically, you know, and they were like taking it seriously. Like I was now the promoter with no aspiration to ever be any kind of artist, music maker, or DJ in any way. In fact, I have an alias. I called it MC Shadow, and I would just hide in the shadows with the microphone and announce the DJ. And you know, I didn't even want to be. But yeah, that was the birth of the raves I threw. And at the time, it was a climate where, you know, on any given weekend, like people would, that's what you did. It was a way of life. Every weekend in Toronto, thousands of people would go out to the various raves, and it started getting bigger and bigger, you know, and all the rave promoters would promote at each other's parties. And so, yeah, it just grew. And by the 3 year, we had 3,600 people. And I threw that party at the Downsview Military Hangar. And by the 4 year, I got a venue at Highway 7 in Jane area, and we got 6,500 people. I was, oh my
I
God.
think that's the one that I played at.
I think Robbie Rivera played at that one, and there was like inside there was a spaceship. It was really hot. Anyway, yeah, so that was the thing. It was like you were like in those days, that was what we did. We like went raving, you know, and it was the best thing. In fact, I always envisioned if somehow the world were to end, that we'd be raving like the Matrix, where everyone's in that cave. You know, I never thought a world-ending thing would be like the opposite of raving, where we're all like completely quarantined. You know, so odd, right? Interesting. Just a side note there. Yeah.
You know, it goes in. If I want to talk about that and say something, it'll go in a different direction. I had a
Yeah.
thought for a moment while you were talking about what you were talking about, because I remember The Flyers. I remember the Flyers being an outlier as Flyers go in Toronto.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
remember the spray can. I
Hmm.
remember the Pink Panther. And when you bring that up, it makes me think about what we were talking about before. I'll digress real quick. Are you aware of the Facebook within the Facebook I raved in Toronto between
Yes.
2003 and or 1993 and 2003? Um, there was a thread that was posted in there. I can't keep up on all of them, and I'm not going to assume that you can too. So I'm just going to say that there was a thread that was posted about an advertising campaign that I believe is happening currently right now in Toronto. And the campaign is a print campaign, posters on the side of a building calling out um, a number of clubs that were considered to be legendary establishments, club nights, clubs themselves, more than club nights, in the city
Hmm.
of Toronto. And then it's a pizza place saying that join
Hmm.
the new pizza club or something like this. I might be saying it wrong, but the idea of what I'm saying is right. Have you seen this? Have you seen this post?
No, so what? They're gonna
So it says
you
something like government comfort zone footwork, system soundbar. I'm missing other names, three or four other club names, and then the name of whatever this uh, new pizza company is. And I think that I don't know what to say. Just it says join the club or something like that, or we're the new club. Join the something club. In other words, here's all these other clubs that were legendary. Now here's us,
Hmm.
and there's no licensing towards it. We talked earlier on about how someone went ahead and did exactly what I said. I'm surprised that this didn't happen. I'm surprised that there's not a drink out there that someone didn't look at you guys and just go, you know, I even like the idea of what you guys did with the brand. Hook me up with your old recipes and flavors. I'll take it all. I'll put out liquid adrenaline and here's your check. Don't come talk to me anymore. Uh, this this idea of liquid adrenaline being used packaged. This idea of the Pink Panther on the flyer, neither thing happened with permission. You guys didn't license Pink Panther?
We did not. We even used a couple of. We were crazy. We used a couple of comic book characters covers. Uh, at the time, I remember part of the trend with the rave scene, stylistically, which I kind of really think is cool and would be cool if it kind of came back. They would take like some existing brand and then do a twist on it. So like, I remember like Kellogg's Corn Flakes or like Special K is like right, the cereal, but then you'd have like a shirt with like the cereal box or like the cookie guys or whatever but they'd be like tweaked, so it was like no longer like cornflakes, it was rave flakes. In fact, I think I had a shirt that said rave flakes, or it was like the BMW logo was like, instead of BMW it said XTC, or like, so like there was a spin on, at the time it was a form of artistic sampling where you
This is
take
sampling.
something and it's sampling, it's
It's
visual
sampling,
sampling. Yeah, it's visual
which is
sampling.
which is which is why I wanted to ask you: are you still doing that?
Every day, yes. Yes, I literally today, and yes, I'm sampling things all the time.
What is the
Um,
difference between sampling something with music and sampling something for an artistic purpose, like
to be honest,
either a billboard or my favorite, which is just I don't know why it's not talked about more often, memes.
exactly. So, I mean, we live in a
Like,
confusing
how the
time now.
fuck is that even allowed? If I go and I start playing music right now from Swedish House Mafia,
Yeah,
maybe the stream will go out uninterrupted on Facebook, but then once it happens on the archive, you won't be able to play it back. I didn't license it, right? It's not my song. But if I want to go and post a picture of Swedish House Mafia, the three of them together, and Photoshop a bunch of spatulas in their hand and the flipping burgers up there instead of DJing,
hmm
that's not touched. But
I
that's not my
believe there.
picture.
I believe that if it reaches a certain amount of momentum, someone might come out of the woodwork about it. So that's where it's at. I believe
For
visual
memes, does
sampling.
that really happen? So if you get a
Well, I
viral
mean,
meme, the original picture owner but how does that even trace back? And how do you collect the data from the millions of people who have posted this meme on their account?
exactly. So, I mean, sometimes, a lot of art when it's put out into the ether, it's let go of, and then it develops its own life, But there are certain things that I'm sure if you took like a, you know, Coca-Cola ad or whatever and used it inappropriately, they might come at you and be like, hey,
Hell yeah, they're going to.
it got
Kevin
enough.
Bracken was doing the lightsaber parties for new Mind Space.
Mhm.
I believe he's obviously changed now. It's heavy meta. But they got a cease and desist from Lucasfilm before they were purchased from Disney. I mean, like they were doing parties that have a few thousand people. They were doing was fighting openly with lightsabers that were either handmade, which is an ode to the brand and the
Mhm.
product. The fans would should do that, or actually acquired true licensed lightsabers that people would some go and spend a great deal of dollar on running around. If it was me, I'm looking at this and I'm going, is he charging any money for that? Be like, no, but he's just organizing, getting it together for free, and all these people are showing up and buying lightsabers in the streets. Be like, yeah, I'm going to let that go. That sounds to me like an incredible branding and marketing moment. If anything, send someone down there to take a couple pictures. Let's put that up on our Facebook. You know,
Exactly, exactly.
it's a weird thing we can't see it, but I'm asking obviously because is I know that this has been a conversation for a long time. I don't know if there's an answer. Is sampling a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And is the conversation that it's a bad thing not because of remuneration purposes, but because the source of the sample doesn't become conversation? The conversation is where it's now this hit track. I love it. Have you heard this new track by XYZ? It's called ABC. I love this song. Be like, yeah, I know that song. It's literally the riff from Michael Jackson's Thriller. And someone who is 15 years old, at this right now is going, I don't know what that is, and I don't care. I like this song. Be like,
Here's a
well, the
funny
reason why you
story,
like
really
it is
quick though.
okay.
Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller, that first note, pong, pong. This is from Beat It or Thriller? I think it's Thriller. That has a whole story about it being a sample, by the way. The keyboard that was made, there was a specific keyboard. I don't remember what it was, but it was like that patch. Michael Jackson used that exact patch in that exact way. And then there's actually a whole like story about that. And they got sued and everything, and they had to like pay the original guy. And so funny enough that you bring up that, even that Michael Jackson sound was like a sample. Like Michael Jackson sampled that and brought it to Quincy Jones, who then, made it into a whole song. And so there's been a story about that. Some guy came out of the woodwork, and there's been a thing. I don't even know. I could look it up for you and send it to you. But with that said, though, art is always going to come from some other place. Humans are always going to take inspiration from something else. Musical sampling has always been a really challenging thing because traditionally, like with some of these, big hip hop hits from back in the day, they would just go ahead with I'm going to make the song and worry about the repercussions later kind of an attitude. So they would sample stuff and then oftentimes years later be bit in the ass about it and have to deal with it. And, it's been a gray zone, even with particularly Jacking House, a certain sound that I'm kind of more labeled for. It's based more on sampling. But their channels are opening up now where sampling is getting sorted out a bit more. So like there's some of these like sample packs and sample websites and things like Splice or Loop Masters or whatever. You're allowed. You go into a deal with them when you sample their sounds, and it's okay. But that doesn't mean that a lot of people don't still jack old songs and get away with it. The way I see it, though, personally, is like I do a lot of sampling, like personally, and I like to make sure that I have a clear path before I do it. And I'm lucky enough that I have a little bank of music that I can pick from that I'm allowed to rejig and sample and take things, and I compensate the original artist in my own way. We have deals, but particularly a lot of demos I get, they don't really do that. So I always warn them. I'm like, you may run into problems. It's better not to really sample things that are, at the very least, if you're going to sample things musically, try and like chop it up in such a way or twist it up that like it's really a new piece, or
Does Space Disco actually remove the liability on the label and put that responsibility upon the artist's shoulders?
all labels that I'm aware of now usually have a clause where it says that, hey, we're not responsible for any sampling problems that'll come up in the future. Like, make sure you don't like give us a problem and a headache with that. So I've had to turn down quite a lot of songs because I'm like, I love what you did. It's still like a very famous disco song. I'm not really like, that excited to try and get in trouble about this. Not saying that we haven't like released certain things with samples, but overall, um, there's different mentalities about it. Some artists I know are like, just go for it, make the art. If it gets to a certain number, like if it gets a certain amount of momentum, someone will come out of somewhere, you'll negotiate shit with them. You blew up anyway. What are you mad about? But like then you have people that are deep in the business that are like, don't even dare, keep your hands off of any trouble sampling in any way. Just replay it, remake it, have someone sing it. Like it's not worth it. So, you know, I prefer to try and be a little bit smarter about it. But like there are people who just are brazen and just like, and they get success from it, and all the power to them. But it is a thing,
Is is it though? Is this a good look when you're grabbing something, and we're not talking about a one steamboat second stab or vocal chop. I mean, you're grabbing something, all right,
It is a good look.
and you're laying it
Yeah.
down, and then you put your name on it and you retitle it, and let's say for example you get an awesome touring scenario that happens from it, and
Mhm.
there's no throwback to it. You never tweet about it. There's no
Mhm.
Facebook post, no Snapchat, swipe up. Let me tell you the story of how this was made. Essentially, it's this is me, this is what I did. And it's
Mhm.
like what you kind of did was you put a kick drum over something that already existed and called it yours. And so this is why I'm asking, where your thoughts were on it.
I think that all art is valid, including that, wall painted red with one splooch of in the middle, and it's like you're making a statement. So as an artist, if that's what you do, and you just straight out take something old and you put the most epic kick drum that married with it in frequency so cool that everyone just loves it, and you re-brought that to life again, then great, all the power to you. Be warned, you might have issues. Be warned, if you
Legally.
do that all the time, though, you'll lose respect because you'll be seen as a guy who's not pushing boundaries. So, as an artist, I personally like to think that there's some songs where I'm gonna like straight out take like a 15-second thing, and but finding that 15-second out of the universe of everything is an art form in itself, and building everything around it, you made a new piece. But I like to compensate the original artist through that new creation, and also prove myself as an artist with completely sample free stuff, or stuff where I recorded the vocals, or stuff that's more like just drums, or just so it's like being a painter, you're like trying to do everything, like, so like sampling can be like being a brilliant collage artist, and there's brilliant collage artists out there who would take like pieces of magazines, right, and cut out things and make a whole wallpaper of it, like, and it would look really cool. And it doesn't mean that it took less effort, but if you literally take like just the Bee Gees or whatever and just literally just put a kick under it, you're not going to get far, because artists are very sensitive, competitive, detail oriented people who are your customer base as well. So they're looking at what you're doing and they're like, well, he's brilliant. He took this old song and he did this, and now it's totally a new thing and it's cool. Or, he's a fraud. Look, all he did was that. So like you have to account to yourself and be comfortable with the art you're making, and also think about the critics and the haters and the all that, right? So it's what you feel comfortable doing, right? Same thing could be said about, ghost producers. I've seen these. In fact, happened to a friend of mine, like Andy Reid, right? He's from Toronto. He owns the label Phoenix Records, and someone like straight out took a song from his label and like sold it to someone else,
You
who
don't
then
mean
released
recreated it. You mean took the wave.
sold the song. Someone had this scam, and they're kind of brilliant if you think.
I'm
Imagine.
not. If Andy's watching right now, by the way, I'm not. I didn't know that this happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I'm not
listen,
smiling that
it's hilarious.
like
Imagine someone
yeah,
took
like
one of
haha, Andy. I'm smiling like Earth, man,
Someone
humans,
took
man,
one of his
like
songs from his catalog and they created some sort of a website where it's like, the mystery ghost producer, I make these songs for you. You could buy it for like $2,000, la la. And then he
right.
sold some clown an existing song. This clown had no idea that it was already out 5 years ago. And then Andy found him and outed him and embarrassed him in front of everyone. This guy's done. So it's like, you want to be a fraud? You want to like use a ghost producer to that way? You run the risk of buying something you don't even know what that is or where they may have stolen. You know what I mean? So like, I don't
When you
know.
bring up the ghost producer, though, I think to myself that in face front, when we get music, TV, movie, you know, is it always only one person? And there are obviously examples of where there's somebody that's everything's out of the box is just them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we don't know what we're getting really. More often than not, I'm not reading the ingredients on a package of food when I'm opening it up. I
And
look at the title. It says
yeah.
McCain's deep dish pizza, and what I am reading is to figure out how I've got to warm up my oven for how long and when I got to take it out so
But
I
you
can
know
eat
what
it.
though? When you're eating that slice, you know,
I don't know who made it.
you might like, you might pull it out when you pull it out of the freezer. Might be reading that instruction thing and trying to get some more background on it. And what happens with being an artist, right? Like if you're, taking shortcuts, it's evident. If you're doing things the proper way and you're relentless and real and following your passion, people see that as well. So, for example, you know, the pandemic has also separated some people from, it's shown who like is a productive, prolific, active person and who is just like waiting for their gigs to appear
To
because they
come
have a
back.
good manager or a good selfie or whatever the hell, right?
I
So,
want I we talked about this for a second on the phone. I hope that there's a form of change. It seems like there's a lot of people who are face first out there and then are just very quiet right now. But at the
mhm,
same time, you know what? I have no idea what everyone's going through.
exactly. So you
And just
can't judge that
because
either. But I mean,
and it's really funny
you
because
know,
I had an opinion about taking the kick drum and putting it over, you know, uh, someone else's, instrumentation minus the percussion. It, what you said had me think, yeah, I'm wrong, and Hatiras is right. And I we don't know, but
mhm,
because you know what it is, maybe because both of us have been so active while this is happening.
mhm,
In my brain, I had no idea that I was even gonna end up going this way. I had no idea I was even gonna end up streaming music. So I mean, like that happened first, and then I was like, I need to start connecting with people, and then also not just that, but getting everybody's story. We all of our stories are unique. Like but there's a form of us. There's a similarity
mhm,
that we can relate with because there's a connection, but at the same
mhm,
time, there's a unique.
mhm.
Uh,
Journey.
that's right that we've all had.
Mhm. Very unique. And
You
I,
were
yeah.
sorry. No,
Oh,
no,
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, no. Late.
I was gonna say, and one of the things that drives me is I feel like it's so odd, but I always wake up feeling like I'm just starting my journey. As soon as I feel like I'm done my journey, I might as well just depart this earth because I always feel like, okay, cool, I did this cool stuff. And if I look back at it, I did some pretty damn cool stuff. Some of it doesn't even seem real. I'm like, what the hell? I've flown the world. I played Tokyo and this and that, and Poland, and thrown these multi-thousand person shows. And
Did you stop
but
and smell the flowers?
not so much. I don't think I've stopped and smell. No, I feel like I'm really still so hungry. I've never been hungrier. It's crazy. I have an obsession and a drive to just like, I don't know. I think that I remember, one thing that I remember changing my perspective was I'm being a flight to some gig somewhere many years ago. And I don't really know much about Stevie Wonder. I know his main hits, right? I know he's a bloody brilliant genius. Wow. Blow your mind kind of like this guy's like the shit. But I didn't know. I was watching this on an airplane. There was a documentary, and they were talking about him, and they said that blah 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 blah. He had a prolific career. He made 1,000 songs, And I just froze. And I'm like, I thought it was a cool guy. I'd made like 100 at that point, or like 80 or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that was a very humbling. I just know like three of his songs or whatever. I didn't know he made 1,000 songs. So then it was like, it flipped a switch in my brain where I was like, okay, well, let's get to 1,000 songs. So I'm like probably halfway there or maybe more at this point, but like it's just weird. Like it just like motivated me because it was like I respect real artists like that. People who are like not doing it because they're trying to like be noticed or on a stage or be like cool or be like, the wrong reasons. I respect people who are like have that obsession for what they're doing, that craftsmanship, that refining it, that like getting better, that keeping going no matter what. And I'm not even trying to follow that path. It's just like that's what I'm designed to. It's like I'm compelled to just go. So I have a lot left, and I don't smell the roses that often. I should. I just don't. I just feel like I was brought up that way. I remember when I do cool things, it was like I didn't never have like a big celebration about like, oh, you won a Juno. That's like all like it was almost like, oh, cool, good, 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 great, and moving along. Or you got a biology degree at York, or great, yeah. It was I never was one. It's almost like bad in a way to not ever have like
Is
that.
it are you collecting experiences and then moving on? Are you bagging them, boarding them like a comic, and then air sealing it and then dropping it in your box and walking away?
Yeah, totally.
Is
It's
how,
like
what is that doing for you now? Now that you know, if you're aware of it, is this how's that affecting you? Is
in a good way in that I'm so productive and prolific. It's insane, but it's also a little bit too much because it's like, oh my God, like I'm like maybe overworking a little or something, you know what I mean? But like I have the energy, I have the steam, might as well go for it. I'm just following that path.
here's the biggest question I've got to ask you for tonight, I think. Um, do you fear vacation?
Not anymore,
Okay.
but I
Why
used
did
to.
you?
No, I didn't fear vacation. It was like my life was the best thing I wanted to be doing at that time was what I was doing. I didn't want to be on some vacation. I wanted to be, and I'm still the same way. It's like if I choose what I want to do, I'm gonna choose to be making music. Or the other thing would be like at some social gathering, like playing it, or like connecting about the music, which that whole part has been kind of taken away right now, and I'm excited for it to return whenever it does. But like,
Summer 2022, baby.
I feel like I retired in a way when I was 18 because my first job was like at a gas station. It was like pretty bad actually. It was like really cold Canadian harsh winters in a really wealthy area where they got like full service plus, and it was like everyone was an asshole to me. You had to do all this extra shit, like change the oil and you know inflate the tires and like everything. So then I had a supermarket job, which also was kind of crappy. They like bossing you around, like get in the freezer there and stack this or that. And then when I discovered the rave scene and started selling my drinks, I was faced with a choice. I remember I told my boss, I was like, I can work any day. I can't work graveyard shift Friday, Saturday. But any other day, I cannot work graveyard. That's all I ask. And the dick scheduled me graveyard shift like Friday 10 to 6 a.m. Saturday, and they did it again. And I'm like, hey, I'm serious. Like I was like young and
Was this
cocky.
an initiation move,
No, he was just an
breaking you
asshole,
in,
but
or
I
just yeah,
I
just
thank
asshole
him
mode?
because I was like, that's okay. You know what? I'll choose the raves. I'll make more money there anyway. I'll have a better time. I'm at the bloody party. I'm out. And then since then, I've been fiercely independent, finding different ways as an entrepreneur to stay active, whether it's as an artist, touring, DJing, throwing parties, running record labels, or whatever it is, selling music. So, like at that point, I decided I was going to do what I wanted to do, and I was stubborn, and I've maintained that for that whole time. So,
I wanna jump back again, like a super dynamite Christopher Nolan movie. We're back forward. You were putting yourself on your own lineups at Liquid Adrenaline. You were building yourself as a performer.
I did that only in the last year of the parties. I only billed myself in 99. There was a 4 years where I didn't bill myself.
What happened in
And
those 4 years is
well,
I want to know before,
so
because you weren't just doing the parties with promotion. You got involved with making music. I mean, clearly, because here we are today.
yeah,
Um,
so I basically was a huge fan of how these drum and bass, these jungle DJs would show up and everyone was so excited that Kenny Ken, Nicky Black Market, SS, whoever it was, these guys, GQ, Darren J, they were gonna come and they always had a dub plate. Dub plate, the only way to get music was on vinyl, and a dub plate was a customized vinyl that you made that had like your name on it and had your version of a song that no one else had. And it was the whole trick of drum and bass jungle then was that the DJ would get on and you heard that song, it was that big drum and bass tune, but then it like changed and it had his name in it and it was like, and then he's scratching his name and it was like, wow, because like remember that you didn't have like CDs or USBs. Like when you played music, then you had your records. They cost $10 to $20 each, and they were limited pieces of vinyl. That there were usually at least 1,000 of them out there in the world. But like the Junglist dub plate was the thing that like, you know what I mean? Like wow, it's like that's like hardcore. You like got your like name, and so I was like so blown away by it that I decided to go make my own liquid adrenaline dub plate, which was going to be like they cost $100. It's a one-off vinyl, and you record
Wait, hold on
the
for a
stuff
second.
on a DAT
You were
like a
charged a
certain time.
hundred. Were you were charged 100?
Sorry,
You were charged 100?
they're around 100,
Wait, for the
around
whole
100.
thing,
Yeah,
both sides, or just one side?
might have been two sides, like 5 minutes a side or something. I don't even remember, but it was like it was expensive at the time. Now it doesn't
Yeah,
seem
no,
like a
no, no.
lot, but
It's
like
expensive.
yeah.
I'm learning through Utility Room and the
Mhm,
various guests who pressed dub plates that there
mhm.
was different prices for all for all of us.
Really? Well, I remember around 120, I think. How high did they go?
I paid 80 a side.
Okay, yes, you got a good deal. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I remember it
Did
might
I?
might be per
No,
side though. So
I don't think so. I don't think I got.
you know what though? Okay, here's the
At
thing
least I'm
though.
learning. I did not get a good deal. I'm learning.
In
Yeah.
order to get a dub plate pressed, there legit had to be a mastering engineer. The mastering engineer typically had hardware equipment that was quite expensive, including tube compressors and EQs and things that like you got this like wave on a DAT tape that you then they inflated it perfectly to have the right frequencies to cut on that vinyl dub plate, metal dub plate. So like depending on the quality of the guy prepping it, you might have paid a bit more, and that's okay because you know maybe you got a good dub plate. But the point of this is that I got made this first dub plate that it said it was my voice saying liquid adrenaline and like some like crappy little I don't remember a beat or some shout outs and I like gave it to my DJs and I was like, yo man, you could drop this. It's so cool. You could like put the needle down and it'll say liquid adrenaline to the whole crowd. It's like revolutionary, you know? And right? So doing that, then it was like I was in a buddy's studio and with another friend and we decided to like make a song. So we like sampled a whole drum loop from one song, a whole acid line from another thing, a whole vocal from another. We mashed it together, made a soup and added a snare roll and it was like the first release and I was hooked and I was like, that's so damn cool. I've always wanted to do this. And with a couple of friends, we invested a little bit of money and bought like a sampler and some basic equipment and then I just got hooked in and I was like obsessed and like just churning out the tracks, recording it on my DAT tape and so once I had a bunch of songs out, then it was like, okay, I'll perform these songs. I'm worthy as a guy. Like I felt confident that I'm not like coming at this like a DJ. I'm coming at this like a guy who makes these songs, who's going to play his songs. And there was like a lot of
Because
things that
you weren't turning up with vinyl. You weren't turning up
no,
with dub plates. You were turning
my
up with your gear.
yeah, my first shows where I brought my whole damn studio there. It was like the sampler, the drum machine, the mixing desk, and it was like quite precarious to be playing like MIDI live from a my God, it was a nightmare. It was like it was really hard and really like elaborate. And I pulled it off the first few shows, and I was trying to find a way to like make this live performance like refined and better. And it was my quest. And I remember being one of the first guys who adopted a CD technology because everyone was showing up with vinyl still. And I literally was one of the first guys who like bought a dual CD deck thing and a mixer with a filter on it and a case. And I brought that to my show so that I had my songs burned on CD, so I would like spin them and do a short half hour set. And then when things changed, I got like lucky, and my third record was a massive hit. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna perform more like a DJ and not just like So I cut all my songs on like these dub plates all the time, and I would have like 5 or 10 heavy metal dub plate one-off vinyls with all my like new working songs, and then like bunch of vinyls, and I would mix it all. And so it was always like for me about like, and it still is when I play. In fact, I DJ'd to a small group of friends last weekend, micro party, and the entire set I was like, still the same guy. It was like, no, all of these songs are unreleased. And when I play, I feel like a chef whose job, my way of playing, is I want to challenge you. I want to get a reaction. If a song bores you for a minute, that's great too, because I'm going to excite you in 2 minutes after that song. I want to see how they flow and vibe with these creations, as opposed to like playing all the hits or like trying to like get them hyped because certain DJs do a great job playing the hits and mixing them up fast. And my thing has always been like, I want to challenge you. I want to present you with something you've never heard and see how you react. And that's where I get my kick out of spinning music always. It's always like the unknown with the, I don't know, I just love that, I've always loved that. It's the dub plate mentality. So,
Wild.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
Where do you see dance floors going once they do return en masse?
Hey, man, I saw like today, a buddy showed me a story that Diplo posted. And it looked like an absolutely normal, regular, awesome little party outside somewhere with like, it was kind of dark, but there was like a few hundred people there, and it looked completely normal. So I think there's going to be the return to a completely normal parties, and there also will be some of these very highly regulated parties, but there's going to be both. And some of the more normal ones, if normal from what we knew, might be considered renegade or might be like more underground. Then again, there are some states and some regions in the world where that stuff is completely back, so those places will be popping. Florida and Texas. I keep seeing. I saw Gene Ferris post a video the other day of a party in, I don't know, Dallas, and it looked like 500 people in a club. Everyone normal.
No
No,
masks.
no masks. So it's like people want to return to normal. And like there's been a lot of fear with all this stuff, but like I feel everyone has the right to their own sovereignty of and tolerance for risk. So if some people want to do it this way, then you know, or that way, or whatever way, like all the power to you. But I do think there will be like some of these super weird, highly regulated parties. But I kind of think what's going to happen? They're going to flop. You know why? Because people do not want to be treated like weird robotic sheep. Like, for example, I went into a coffee shop the other day and I had a mask on, and there was a big plastic thing between me and the lady serving coffee. And she was quite rude and bossy and trying to tell me to, like, stand here, stand there, la la. She had like a weird attitude, like, stand on this stick or stand on that stick. I did what she said, but I'm not going back for business there. People, whatever it is, however these parties are run, if people feel like they're too invasive and trying to get all your personal information, you must do this and that every time you enter, there's going to be a backlash, and those parties will be empty. And these underground parties in the forests and in the out of town fields where people have space or whatever are going to be rammed, and it's going to be a new underground being born. And these ultra controlling parties will be there. They'll be like these ultra boutique, in order to go in, you're going to have to, like, whatever it is, like, leave your visa and all your whatever and like be in a bubble the whole time or whatever it is. But like they'll be there, but there will be it's like there's going to be a separation. There's going to be the two scenes, I believe, you know? So, but depending on how quickly, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's gonna be a weird year though, for sure. There's gonna be some people who are doing some venues. They're doing their best to follow every rule, and but they'll be empty because there'll be people on the beach, man. Just like last summer. You know how many people partied on the beach? It was crazy. Youth culture just wants to like live. You know, they're not trying to like be like, oh, I need to stand on this sticker and I need to, you know, I don't know. Too many rules like freaks people out too. You know, so. That's what I think. There'll be a new underground, and there'll be like this like super strict. There'll be both.
The label Space Disco, how many releases are you guys at right now?
I'm at 225, which is
So
insane.
that, yeah, that's like giant number. Um, if we were to take, uh, by your opinion, if you could list three releases off Space Disco, your faves,
Mhm.
sales not included. They can be. I mean, like coincidence. Like I love this song, and it also happened to be one of the biggest songs on the label. Sure, if this is your opinion, but maybe it was a B side that you were like, oh my god, I'm signing this record from this artist because the primary what they would call the A side, what's been submitted as the A side by the artist's opinion. This is what they believe to be the lead on this release. But it's really the B side that I'm fond of. This is why I'm signing it. You may not admit this, of course, to the artist, or maybe you do. But let's take into account this idea as well. So when I ask this question, what are your three favorite releases off of Space Disco Records? What would your answer be?
Um, it's very hard to pick. I love them all, and as children, I'll forewarn that they're all amazing, and they all sound really amazing because I'm a bit cocky. I mastered them all, and I put 20 years into mastering and
Awesome
frequency
sauce.
manipulation. So they all sound fat and proper. One of my favorites and the most notable, like an iconic Space Disco release, is a song I made called Charlie Corona, but it's the Angelo Ferreri remix. It just has like the same sample that, anyway, it was just an iconic French Jackin disco sounding chopped up little sample with like this really like pronounced kind of siren sound. And Angelo Ferreri is a really amazing producer. The remix he did is like epic. It's just so funky. The second one that comes to mind immediately is like a Vincent Kyra 12 inches. He sampled the vocal from Moody Man saying something about like it's like a innuendo about like 12 inches and the ladies love the vinyl or whatever 12 inches. It's just kind of funny and so hooky and catchy and memorable. So 12 inches by Vincent Kyra. There's a few versions of that out. One by Jason Hodges that's Toronto buddy blown up. And third is I don't know if I can really even pick because now it's like there's too many, you know. I really don't know if I could pick a third. Like, geez, uh, you know, LeBaron James from Toronto Music. That's a really nice tune. Um, you know, if I'm gonna be biased, I mean, all the stuff I've dropped, I think is kind of cool. You know, the stuff coming out is kind of cool too. The next one I got dropping, you're gonna love because it's like, I know you're gonna love it because it's like kind of disco, and then it like
Sounds like
goes
it
into
sounds
like,
like sounds like a car alarm going off, and
well,
and
yeah,
and
no, it's like
basically goes.
it goes into like a deep kind of throbby analog bass disco segment, which is like, oh my God. It's kind of like, remember Yark Prongo moving through your system? How it like, it still had like a, yeah, that's iconic too, that song. Right? It was like, it had that like, you know what I mean? That driving like, but still like a sample, but it was like, had that
All right.
low throb, you know? So like this,
I'm on your promo list. I don't know what it's called, but do me a favor, drop me a DM so I can keep an eye out. I've found lately that the promos that I'm getting have been good.
oh, thank you.
Uh, no, you're yours too. No, I mean generally, I felt that music for a second, there was just it felt like there was no challenge to it. And it didn't matter that it didn't really matter the genre. I'm calling it all out, and so I don't know. Also, I got super frustrated with promo descriptions. I'd get excited, an email would pop through, and it may even be from a label that I'm fond of, and they'd be like, "Oh, new release banger." Oh, fuck yeah, great. I'd run, open up the email and listen, and it would be like a ballad or
Hmm.
something very smooth. And I'm like, why the fuck are you calling this a banger? And then I start getting concerned. I'm like, you're old, Jello. You're fucking old, you dinosaur. And a banger is now probably like the first time I looked at my mom and said, "Oh, that's sick." And she'd be like, "Is it contagious? Are you okay?" And I'd be like, "No, I meant it's cool,
Well,
but
I
I don't
mean,
want it.
it's
I don't
interesting
want
though
to say
because
cool.
the
I'm just saying, is banger now? I don't know. Like,
bangers
what the
very
fuck does banger mean?
we
No,
now live in an era where I first witnessed this kind of thing in Tokyo, like maybe like a dozen years ago, where it was like, oh, every micro genre existed there. There was literally hard, hard like German techno parties and stores that were selling that clothing. You could walk around a little clothing mall. It's like this is the goth section with like all hardcore goth music, and this is the full on laid back West Coast hip hop like section, and this is like weird. It's like polka with like or like this is like 50s swing like rolled up collars and like so it was like I saw there because like every micro genre was represented. You know what I mean? Just walking through some of these clothing stores where they play music, and I was like, that's where we're going because the world is opened up now because of the internet, where we don't all have to follow the same one path, and that now there's a lot of micro. You could have like new like the synthwave groups, and to them a banger is nothing to do with what like some chill progressive like desert like trance like banger would be versus like full on techno or some of the stuff they call techno, which is just trance or deep house. There's deep house bangers too. So the words come to mean like yeah, an exciting song in this flavor, not actually like what we used to think was a banger was like some typically like electro house of some sort with some like energy and up tempo kind of vibes. But
or
now it's
big
like
techno, or see, listen, I've got the same thing with hard house. I talked a bit about this. I'm not quite sure what happened in 2002. I'm
mhm,
guessing, I have to really look to be sure, but between Tidy Tracks and Nucleus and a handful of other labels, all of a sudden it was UK hard house. At first it was just hard house, but I think that there was so much noise that emanated via North America being like, yo, that is not hard house. Hard house
exactly,
is
yeah,
literally house music, but fucking hard.
yeah,
So that's hard house. And you guys are over there with a form of trance without melody, and
yeah.
that's not hard house. I mean, and
I'm
listen, I
yeah.
I liked it when it was called New Energy, because
Hmm.
I mean
Well,
it was definitely new, and it was definitely energetic, and I was like, yeah, this style makes sense. The name became UK Hard House. Hard House. No, I don't give a fuck. No, no, it's not. Funky Techno Tribe, West Coast America, that was breakbeats, funky breaks, and hard house. That's what that shit was.
mhm,
Barry Weaver, the shit that he was doing, especially when he came to Toronto, was playing at the Dose parties.
mhm,
That's hard house.
totally,
That's what
totally. I mean, and then now you got this like that's why even this thing with like oh
this happened. This
Jackin
happened
House or whatever.
5, 6 years ago. This happened with
Yeah.
Deep House.
Oh yeah, but now that it's
100%
interesting
this
though.
happened with Deep House got jacked.
However, there are certain retailers, like for example, if you go to Tracksource and look at their deep house section versus Beatport's deep house section, although they're merging again oddly, but there was quite a separation like even a couple of years ago where like some of the
Huh.
stuff on Beatport
Cool.
that they'd be calling deep house, like even on YouTube, you'd see this deep house mix and it's like a bunch of bikini girls and like hour long mix with like bikini girls and like kind of like it's not deep house. That's like it's like tropical house. What do you mean deep house? Real deep house is like stuff that was like soulful and deep and from the like, 80s or early 90s or but like that's the thing that happens is as more art gets created, things are tried to be put in a box. And even, for my own stuff, like I don't know why the hell I should in any way be called Jackin House. I guess it's what they decided to throw me in because it's got like a Chicago vibe and like, maybe the snares are kind of like loose and shuffly, and there's like an energy and a pep to the sampling vibes of it. But like, really though, even that, like, there's a lot of like blurs. Even as every week, I, as a label owner, I dictate the genre when I submit a song. So I'll put a song up and I'll be like, well, is this one new disco, or is this one house, or is this one Jackin House, or is this one deep house, like, or is it tech house? It's all kind of like harder to. And you don't want to be in a situation where art stays in a box either, because then that gets boring. Like, do we need every song to sound like DJ Sneak? I love DJ Sneak. Doesn't all need to sound like that. There can be an evolution of some aspects of that moving towards like, maybe more bass lines that are organic or synthetic or vocals that are sang over it or whatever it is. So it's like music's always evolving and it's always going to be hard to like completely just like box something in with like a one term kind of thing. It's more important to like that it progresses and that we like have new fresh stuff than that it like conforms, I'd say. So, and hey, I clearly recall when like in high school it was like the word techno was this new thing. I remember I listened to early house music, was very vocal heavy, soulful keys and bass lines and 909 drums, and then it was like, what in the world, techno? This stuff sounds like synthesizers are being used instead of like organs. And they don't have vocals. They have like sampled chop vocals that are pitched up and down in weird ways. And, so like music's a tree that's always like growing, I guess, right? And that's good. So good. We still don't have Polka House though, do we?
It's got to be out there. You mean that we don't have Polka House?
Yeah.
Right.
There was a time I remember if maybe Burning Man 20, I don't know, 13 or one of these years where there was that sound kind of came in. Remember, there's a lot of the clarinets and stuff on that like janky, like circusy
Like
sounding.
Jake, like like that to me was like the early Wonk.
Yeah,
I know it became something else, but
yeah.
and maybe that's what it is. And then I just can't reconcile it because I guess I would consider if someone was like I'm constantly frustrated. I have no idea what genre I am. I don't, and it's I know again it's bad news, especially like
You
for
know what? You're like a hybrid of like aspects of electro house with like techno, with a bit of punk, and it's great, and it's all you. And I've heard you make other stuff though that's like, oh wait, that's a little more proggy slash not as like aggro and then more aggro. Like so, like But as artists, I guess we all have our little flavor. But when you step outside of it, you can see it more clearly. Like when I sit in making a song, I'm not trying to be like funky. It just kind of comes out of me more naturally, I guess. So, but on a quick side note, though, because it is almost 11, I think at some point we
no,
should schedule
I
a
was actually
Zoom.
getting ready to say goodbye to you,
Yeah.
but I was just thinking that what happens if the term funky gets turned into like ballad? What will you do?
I'm gonna do what
What
I
will you
always
do?
do. You know what that is? As much as possible, ignore the noise and don't compare. The quickest path to misery and failure is to compare yourself to someone else or to try and fit into their box. One of the reasons I've run my own record label, in fact, this is my third record label, each of them has lasted 5 years and 100 releases in the first, 100 on the next, and 200 on this one. I never wanted to conform to someone else's sound. I wanted to create my own sound. And oftentimes as an artist, and here's my final advice, you're going to be out there trying to send a demo to, let's say, Tool Room. Maybe they don't like it. It doesn't sound like Tool Room. They have their sound. They have their squad. Maybe you're going to be out there trying to get on Defected. Maybe they don't like it. They have their sound and their squad. It's okay. Maybe you're trying to get on Dim Mak or something and do some thrashy electro. Again, it's okay. Do it yourself then. Don't conform to some other label because you're waiting and trying to get on their label for cred. Like all these, like, too many artists now are trying to be like, I need to be on these 8 labels, and they have a list. Then you don't need, it helps and it's nice, and you can mold your sound to try and get on these labels to get their promo and get their like fan base and recognizing you. But it's better to like just be authentic, be patient, make your sound. And one of the best examples of that, and the most successful examples of that, and I give him credit for it, was Deadmau5, because the guy came in out of left field and he had this sound that no one had. It was dun 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 dun, 8th note synthesizer chords. Who the hell else was doing that? And he blindly, boldly went forward and kept at it, and then people gravitated to it, and now we're copying him. Similarly, I feel that with the stuff I'm making, I'm not trying to fit a mold. I'm trying to say, I'm going to row my musical canoe this way and keep going. And you know what happens? People look and they're like, oh, there must be something happening there. I'm going to jump on and bandwagon on that guy. So you can be a bandwagoner or you can be a leader. Just suck it up and be a leader. Make your sound. Don't worry about other labels. And if it takes longer to get popular, or if you never do, at least you had the integrity to make shit you like. And when you go to sleep, you made music you like and are proud of, instead of trying to like fit this or that genre, you know? So that's my advice to artists as a closing thing. Just be true to your sound. I've done that. You've done that. That's why we're still active after all these years, because we're not trying to copy someone. We're trying to make what comes through these cosmic frequencies that channel through us, that we enjoy, that we think. And when you like something and when you make it and you love it, people can tell and it resonates. And when you don't, because you were copying something, people can tell and then it doesn't resonate. There's an energy in that transfer that's happening, and that applies to all art. I feel that the more authentic and the more passionate you were about when you made it, you feel it, as ridiculous as it is, people will get that from you.
Fuck, you just said a whole bunch of shit that I want to fucking dive into. Just like,
Yeah, I guess we should. I guess we should call it
yeah,
quits.
yeah. It's. I mean, look, I know what I've talked about this before on the show. I've talked about it, even afterwards. It's funny. Like I find that when I'm hanging out with everyone after the show, just I like to always check. Like, are we okay? Do you feel good? Is everything happening inside internally? Are you know? Do you need me? Do you need me to, do you need me to delete that thing? Um, it's I don't know how tired someone's ass is gonna get. You know, I some Joe Rogan episodes or other podcasters I might be listening to, you know, are going a little north of three.
I mean,
Are
I'm
go,
good. I'm good for a bit longer if you want to.
no,
I'd like
no,
to
no,
touch on
no, no.
it, or we
We
can.
really should. I mean, we said at the beginning of the show. I mean, I feel like after I pass 2 hours, someone's ass cheeks are falling asleep. You know what I mean? And I don't want to literally numb someone out. You know, if this was, you know, without any filter, you and I can do 4 hours, no problem. Especially right now. You know,
Totally,
I've got, you
especially,
know,
yeah, yeah.
especially right now. It's not going to be a problem. But let's give everyone. We said so much shit, and my favorite parts of tonight's episode were just that I came in with some opinions. You know, the banger thing. You know, your response here at the end of the show is definitely going to end up in the excerpts for Instagram and stuff when I do the little excerpts for people to, if they've missed the show and they want to see what I would consider to be some fun highlights. It's got to be there. You know, I had an opinion and I feel swayed from my opinion that I had, you know, going in, listening to what you had to say. And for that, I'm super appreciative. So thank you.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
really,
thank you.
really
You know, and
awesome.
thanks for giving a voice to all these artists on such a personal level. I watched some of the stuff you did. I was watching my boy Flipside with his interview, and it's great because you're pulling out the raw truth from every. People want to hear what these guys are like, you know, and get a slice of a view of like, you know, sometimes people have this completely different image of like what someone is, and it's nice that they get opportunity to hear them speak, and that you're providing this. And I wish you all the most success with this. And I'm happy to be a guest anytime because it was very enjoyable for my bored ass to be talking to you today. And like old
Thank you.
times, because you lived like half a mile away, and I would walk over, you'd walk over. And as a concluding thing, we have many more stories to get into, but like you'd come over, you're like, we got 2 hours, we're gonna make a goddamn track. 2 hours, that's the rule.
For a second, because for a second we talked about. I think it was 3.5 hour records,
Yeah,
and
we
that
had
was
this
the
thing.
deal. Is that we'd sit down, and if the song took more than 3.5 hours to
It
make,
was no good.
no good.
Exactly,
No, we
exactly.
sit down. That's it.
And
And
that's how we made Speaker
both
Humper,
Speaker
Donkey
Humper
Punch.
and Donkey Punch,
Yeah.
both of which have less than 10 tracks within each song.
Which I still
Uh,
maintain that philosophy as much as possible.
do
Other than
you?
some, yeah, I generally like to keep it quite simple. Like I'll end up having a lot of effects, but like
Right.
overall the core is always for me kick, hi-hat, snare, bass, lead thing, which could be a sample or a piano, and then, some effects, vocal. I read a book and it was like even Chucky, DJ Chucky, I remember. He was a very nice guy and a very good friend. He brought me out to Holland a bunch of times. He was like, bro, these best songs, they always have three main elements that people absorb, and the rest is like kind of quieter in the mix, but it's the three elements they really want to like focus on. And one of those three for me as a raver is going to be the kick drum. So like, all the other stuff is going to be quieter in volume. It's not that it's not there, but it'll be quieter. So the focus is on, it's like a good dish where you like have like whatever, steak, potato, asparagus. Sure, there's a lot that went into making all that and the sauce and all that, but like the main three things are what you're digesting. So if it needs too many things in there, you might be fighting it, and it might be better to strip it down and just pick really good ingredients. Then again, it depends on the genre, because hey, stuff like some of that complextro stuff was all about, or dubstep, right? It's all about the more you can smoosh in there and mess people more, right? So it's
I don't
stylistic.
know. I definitely don't see dubstep that way. Maybe electro house stuff. I'm not sure. I stopped listening to electro house a long time ago, so I might be missing some gems. But I just found that more often than not, just on mass, or at least when I was being shown on mass, I was just not really. I was not into.
Mhm.
Um,
All right, on that note,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I'm like, we're not done, but we should be. Originally, the idea behind tonight's episode was for me to be side by side with Hatiras, and to have a Hatiras and Jello back to back set showcasing Space Disco Records, the releases. Hatiras's plan was to play more of the release itself. Well, I was gonna pull out a lot of the drums and try and do lots of fun effects and layer everything together side by side. Unfortunately, the pandemic has extended into a fashion of where our forecast just didn't put us there tonight. But despite that not happening, I had an amazing time with you tonight in the utility room. And I'm really happy that we were here. And I'm really stoked that you want to come back and do it again. It sounds like we definitely should. And I just want to say thank you very, very much. Um, Totally awesome hearing from you.
Thank you,
And
brother. Thanks so much too.
yeah, great. Right here, this is Hatiras. That utility room. You awesome sauce. Thank you very much for tuning in.